Welcome back to the Ben and Wrench YouTube channel. Well, friends, the Jimmy is back inside. And look what we got on the engine stand. A farm fresh 5.3. According to the back of the cylinder head, it's an 01 and it runs good. 161K. I mean, it says it right on there, folks. It runs good, so it has to, right? So we did go out to Wayne's and we grabbed that unit out to Wolverton Auto, the junkyard we always go to, our buddy's place, and he hooked us right up. I'll drop that little clip of me grabbing that unit. Of course, we took the old burnout truck over there to hauler, you know, because what else would you use? The vibe, I guess. Yeah. Getting the motor for the Blazer right now. Fresh unit. Got to use the old burnout truck to hauler, you know. I'm a pickup truck, but. So, our plan for this guy today, on this lovely How Tuesday, is we're going to show you how to strip this and put it in there. So, my goal for this video is to wrap up with this motor sitting in the cavity right where it needs to be. So, Dad and I pushed it in earlier. By all means, this thing pushes like a freaking Mack truck. It was rough. So it is in the hole, waiting for its new delivery. So we're gonna go ahead and pluck this unit out. Obviously the front clip is off, so that makes it nice and easy for us. We're gonna justify the harness as we get through there. Now we are still waiting on our wiring harness. I reached out the current performance and I'm looking at another 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, but I hope it's worth everything that they say it is. So, the race car, right? We did figure out what we're gonna do. I was gonna put an iron 6-liter in it. I can't. I could, but I can't. I'm gonna put a 6.2 back in it. I know, I don't wanna sacrifice my LS3, but it's just the right thing to do. Something I did learn. I'm an LS guy, but this is my first, believe it or not, my first LS car that wasn't running truck accessories. Because we've done swaps on my Regal, a BMW, a bunch of different stuff. We've ran different accessories, right? So this has LS3 accessories. So this is just an aluminum 5.3. If you look at that embossment there, that hole there, and that hole there. Now this hole can be drilled and tapped on an iron block. This hole is not there. Here is an iron block. No hole. Not drilled and tapped. So, one of them things, ICT Billet sells an adapter support bracket, but it doesn't work with the factory one. So, do I waste more money on that, or we just put the 6.2 in there and send it? So that's what we're gonna do. You're gonna see that at a later time. That thing is, at this point you would have seen the harmonic balancer bolt fall out of it. On the way home, it didn't hit the drag strip. Okay, it did not. She held together. But then we turned down our road to get home, and then tink, tink, tink. I get a phone call, and my dad sees this bolt go rolling off, and of course we stopped and picked it up. But, I mean, it did drive home. You see it. All right, so let's get the time lapse and shredding that motor, because we want to get that thing stripped and prepped and ready to go, because we have new accessories and all kinds of fancy stuff to go on it. Go. So, first things first, we're gonna pull the fan off. So, obviously we want to put new water pump gaskets on, so the water pump's coming off. Anything that's leaking, we're gonna replace. And believe it or not, this motor looks sealed up really well. It's a really clean engine, so I'm pretty impressed with that. But obviously we're gonna repurpose the alternator, the power steering pump, and the water pump. And then intake, we're gonna repurpose. The exhaust is going away. We're hoping to use the LS3 manifolds off wifey's Camaro. And then, yeah. So basically we need to strip all this BS off, get her down to the long block. Let's get to pulling stuff. So, air chisel, fan. I love this trick. I know there's tools and blah, blah, whatever, but this works great. Give her a couple whacks.
That's what she said.
Now we will 100% save this for another time, because it ain't gonna fit in there. So, all right, get the time lapsing. You're gonna see me strip this bad boy down. Let's go. Okay, something we're gonna try and we've done in the past and it works well, but not guaranteed. because this bolt is probably already broken off, because all the manifold bolts are broke on these damn things. This one's probably broken off, but I like to take and either swat them with a hammer or your lovely air chisel and rattle each one of these, and hopefully the shock will crack the Loctite, the corrosion, all that stuff. So let's give it a shot. Wish me luck. So a lot of times, believe it or not, the manifold rusts to the bolt and you end up breaking the head off. We're hoping that doesn't happen. If it does, then we'll just weld the washer on and put a nut on it and then unscrew it. But I hit them all with the air chisel. I like to run them with the impact. You say it's reckless, but usually, you know, ripping them up fast is on point. You know, slow ratchet, you know, causes heat, you know, so let's just go for it. Now, I'm just saying, these weren't off before. That is freaking awesome. I'm pretty excited, guys. That's a milestone. Let's hope we can do it again on the other side. But one more quick note before I get back to it. Tell me this water pump gasket wasn't leaking without telling me that water pump gasket wasn't leaking. Look at that. Ain't that some crap? But that's how these things fail. You see right there, and then they'll start weeping outside. Indicator was all this crust up top here, the corrosion buildup, but new gasket. That, my friends, is the first ever for this guy. Have you ever pulled factory exhaust manifold bolts out and they all came out? And they were all in there. I have never, and I've worked on, oh my God, a lot of LSs anyways, and LTs and Tritons and all the crap with broken exhaust manifold bolts. I've never had them all come out without breaking one. Just so I can prove it. And you guys all seen it on camera. See, the old rattle trick helps. How freaking cool is that? So next thing you're gonna see us do, I'm gonna go ahead and just wire wheel this thing. And just so you see, this is just dirt, but there's no leaks. The rear seal looks good. Everything looks spot on. So when they say it's 160 thou, I believe it. We don't need this anymore. Well, that's what it takes, folks. She is ready for install. Cleaned and prepped, just like that. So, let's get back to the project at hand. This unit. So, what we got to do, ideally, current performance, the harness we ordered is going to plug into the fuse box and then feed everything else. So, ideally, we want to unplug it that way. Just makes it easier for install, right? So, you see, here's your main harness that goes to the engine right here, correct? Plugs up into the fuse box, so we should be able to undo that. That'll be a majority of it. Our battery cable, somebody did us a fine favor there and cut those. So hopefully we undo the hoses, throttle cable. Obviously we got to do undo our cruise control because we're going to retain that, of course. AC compressor's junk. We're going to replace it though because obviously Derek is wanting AC in West Virginia. Power steering lines, we have obviously our feed line and our cooler lines, and then our motor mounts. Torque converter bolts, all that stuff. Exhaust out of the way, we knew that. Starter is out of the way. I stole that for the 8.1 truck, thanks buddy. So, let's get to unbolting some stuff. So, let's start with the easy stuff. I know it looks overwhelming, but this come out in one big piece. You know, your vacuum hose, any sort of ground straps. I know we did a lot of that when we did the lift, so that saved us ground straps. Now we got to go ahead and take apart our fuse box. It looks like we got a 10 millimeter, a couple 10s holding it down. We'll be able to flip that up. And then I'll grab that real fast. God, there's not a ton to disconnect. I love it. I love it. And the lift and the no front clip, I mean, you could damn near bear hug this son of a bitch. I don't know if it'd keep me warm or not, but that'd be just weird.
I said, well, you ain't that straight.
So we got a couple 10 millimeters. Let's see if I can get to the other one. There it is. The biggest thing is we just want to flip that dude over and see how to disconnect that wiring. A lot of times there's screws that hold them in from the bottom. So we're gonna find out. And that is still accurate. I'll show you. So we got, looks like a 7 millimeter, and that'll unplug this main bulk harness. And then we gotta go over to the computer side. Spin that out of the way. Like I said, supposedly that harness we're getting from Current Performance will plug in here, and it'll plug in to the factory. Well, I'll put the computer in the factory location. The only thing we may have to modify, and I was talking to Derek about that, my friend there, is we are running an ICT billet accessory drive to keep the alternator and AC in the factory spot. The only problem that I can foresee is the Current Performance harness putting the the AC down at the bottom. So we'll find out together on that one. Worst case, it's 2 wires. We'll just have to take our $900 harness and lob off a couple connectors to make it work. But yeah, look how handy that'll be. So this is the same fuse box actually on the trucks. It is pinned differently though. I've tried it. So this harness, it runs across the top. It's kind of got your blower motor, and this goes inside. Actually, a majority of this stuff here is all your gauges, believe it or not. And then your heater control stuff. So we got to unplug that, and I think we get an adapter for that portion. But we can go ahead and plug the black connector. There we go. So that other harness too, I can't wait to see it, but that'll tie in. It should actually, it either plugs into this, and they've created an adapter for this, or it plugs into here. I don't know that part yet. Or we replace this whole thing. We're gonna find out together. So I do have to pull the coolant reservoir. I really wasn't wanting to, but that's the only way we're gonna get this main bulk harness out of here, so. So, coolant bottle out next. You got 3 10s holding that down. So some of you may notice on that computer, some of these trucks, I don't remember exactly what year it might have been, but I know they came with the LS style computer. So we may have to get one of those trays to hold the PCM. Yeah, if you're familiar with like a 411 or an 896 computer, one of the style, the early Gen 3 LS computers, it's probably a different computer number, but the actual physical shape is the same. And then basically it'll bolt in here. So we may have to go back to the junkyard and grab one of those. But I think, yeah, there it is. He's ready to come out of the way. So we had to do that basically to get this dude free. Because obviously this is going to be tied to the engine on top of the fuse box over there. And realistically, I think that's it for wiring. We're going to go in there and plug everything out of the tranny and then the O2 sensors and stuff. Transmit, we got to do neutral safety switch. I think we got to, you got to get the torch out and heat those ones up because they glue the damn things. I don't know whose freaking great idea that was, but. All right, finally got her in the air. We got to wrap up underneath. So, a couple things I wanted to show you. So, since that harness is going to be replacing the neutral safety switch, we got to go ahead and unplug this dude. So, these plugs are glued into there. They have like a clear, glue, basically. And you gotta take some heat to warm them up to get them out. But you can see we got grass everywhere, so it might be wise to, blow that out of there. But I did get the motor mounts out. The rest of the stuff up top is done. Basically, we're looking at just trying to get bell housing bolts, torque converter bolts, and then we'll tie up our transmission. Throw a ratchet strap like we normally do, just so it's not, don't flop down. And then that way, we can actually go ahead and pluck the engine out. Because, we are freaking close. 10 bolts tops. It should be ripped out of here. Okay, so not a crazy amount of heat, just enough to warm the glue up. I know, it seems aggressive. There's one. I know that's super down and dirty, guys, but that is literally the only way. I've seen people pry them apart and break those things, and it's a freaking mess. So a little bit of heat, probably could use the heat gun, less, you know, but we're changing the wiring harness anyway. As long as we didn't mess up the switch, that was the biggest thing. But on that note, I mean, it's out. So I did unplug the rest of the stuff under there while I was there. I'm gonna start blowing bell housing bolts out real quick, and then, yeah, it's the inevitable. Woo! Can't forget our torque converter bolts. So, we got all kinds of bell housing bolts. So this engine is a little bit newer, so these bolts are actually metric, so we can reuse these. Quick way of indicating, we've talked about this in the past, but if you see a numerical digit, 10.9, that's the tensile strength, generally indicating it's a metric fastener. SAE always have your little lines. I'll see if I can drop a picture of, you know, the heads of bolts in the video for you. I will tell you, the body lift definitely helps with the bell housing bolts. If you ever put an engine in one of these before, they suck. All right, so let's at least drain the oil in respects of the junkyard. So if there's any in it, because you know the oil cooler line blew off. All right, moment of truth. Are you ready? Are you watching? Let's see, we're almost there. All right, ready? Oh, that ain't good.
That's nasty.
A lot of oil in this. He should have been just fine. Don't mind the glitter. You know, people pay for that stuff. Well, let's see if we can do it on the first try. We got the bell housing separated. We got all bolts out. Fuel lines are disconnected. All the wires should be disconnected. I threw a ratchet strap across the tranny, so that's supported, kinda. Maybe, but whatever. It'll be fine. I think it's time to try going up with this thing. You guys ready to see that? Because I'm hoping it's just like, you know, it's gonna be so much smoother if it is. So let's give it a shot. Now that, my friends, is how you pull a 4.3 out of an S10. So, not too bad. All I forgot one thing, and I'm gonna show you one thing. This damn vent line for the purge valve. I couldn't get to it anyways, I didn't even see it. But the wiring underneath, flop that dude up, and yeah, I just cut the downstream O2 sensor one. We didn't need that for this harness anyways. But she is out, and look at all the room for activities. I love it. We did, it looks like we had a friend living in here too. Man, oh man. Derek, I don't know where the hell what kind of mice you got going around by your place, but son of a biscuit. So you ask yourself though, you're like, Brian, what do you do about the trans dipstick, right? Who thought about the transmission dipstick? I did. It's me, I did. So you'll notice it goes here, right? So if you are familiar with your LS motors, this hole doesn't exist, right? Doesn't exist. So with a little bit of forth thinking, or if you're watching this video, hopefully it helps you, you use a dipstick from a half-ton truck that had an LS in it, right? Still a 4L60, but now this dude goes down to here. See? Fixed. Problem solved. The only thing, I hope it fits, because I haven't done that on one of these yet, but we're going to find out together. So by the time you wrap up this video, we'll know. I hope. But on that note, the motor's out. So we're going to go ahead and get this dude out of our way, because we don't need anything on it. We do need the accessory drive. I guess we need the power steering pump and the alternator, but once we get that out of the way, we can take that off in the back, you know, outside. But it's really, I mean, we got to pull our motor mounts. Oh yeah, by the way, look at this. I know you guys appreciate that. So that's where it bolts, and that's what hooks to the motor. I didn't even have to unbolt those damn things. How freaking sweet is that? So, these 3 bolts like we used on my S10, we've done in the past. 3 bolts, boom, boom, boom. We bolt down our new eBay motor mounts, our new polyurethane 2.8 style motor mounts. And then we bolt the clamshells to the engine, and then now we set her in a hole. So realistically, I mean, we're almost done. I mean, in theory, because that motor's prepped. You've seen the pristine work we did on that motor. She looks mint. Let's put the engine in. Motor mount, you ask? Of course, we're going with the Amazon Special. So they are polyurethane. Again, these are a clone of a 2.8 mount. So if you're familiar with the old 2.8s, same style mount, mini clamshell. So we're gonna go down here and rip these dudes out. Fortunately, we got a new enough truck, so those holes are already threaded. If you run into, oh man, like a early style Gen 1 S10, you may have to put nuts on the backside.
These nuts? Got him!
I know. All right, let's get these out. All right. These things have been done a million freaking times, guys, so of course, the stuff just works. They got it figured right out. So basically, we just install our new swap mounts. Now we're gonna leave the clamshells probably loose when we do that, or not even put them on. And then at that point, we will assess it as we need. And that's it. Always check your fasteners. So you ask yourself, you're like, Brian, what about the torque converter bolts? Okay, so years past, what this guy used to do would be to just oblong these holes, right? You just kind of clean them up with the burr tool. Works great every time. So some 5.3 flex plates I've been enlightened. My buddy Joe, Junkyard Joe, he told me, he's like, dude, I found the flywheel.
No freaking way.
I found it. I'm like, all right, what do you mean? What do you mean, right? So he's got a little artwork on here, but it'll make it more understandable. Here is your normal LS pattern. And then he's like, hey, I found these bolts, right? So you see that one and that one and that one and that one. And then guess what? That one and that one. So what that means, Joe, he solved the world's equation with flex plates. With junkyard flex plates anyway. You can go buy fancy conversion, blah, blah, who gives a shit. But because you're budget minded like me, this flex plate, and maybe yours, has a second set of holes. And guess what? Let me show you. Take a look at this. So that hole lines up, and that hole lines up, and so does that one. Perfect. So we got a flex plate, right? You ask yourself, what about the spacer? You know, because of course, if you did not know this, the early 4L60s require a spacer. So these are spaced out for a small block Chevy, big block Chevy, whatever, Vortec style depth, right? So we obviously are putting an LS in it. So the crank snout is shallower. So now we have this. You've seen these before, I'm sure, if you're watching LS stuff or you want to learn. It's called a torque converter spacer or extension, whatever. Basically, this extends the hub pilot on the trans. So you put that on, you use this sweet flywheel, and we're done. It bolts right up. Minus, of course, this dude here, and then you want to have a bolt here, but that don't matter. So we'll still have 5. Yes, this won't match your oil pan. If you give a shit about that, buy an LS transmission. But realistically, it means nothing. Just aesthetics, but it's gonna function, fit, form, perfect, just like your transmission did before. So, trans dipstick, we talked about this. Let me grab my other one here real fast. Blends right in. So, this is a dipstick tube from a truck. Now, granted, I see it's a little taller. We may have to try bending it. I don't know yet, but that's what I was talking about. It's gonna go in there, and it utilizes this hole versus that hole. Now, our friends at ICT Billet, they sell everything. And other manufacturers, they sell a little dummy piece that bolts to a different bolt hole and gives you a clone of that. So if you don't want to mess with a dipstick, you can buy an adapter. It does work. I think it actually bolts to the back of the head and then makes a little drop down. Now we've actually gotten away back in the day, early naive us, we would just take and use a P-clamp and clamp it around the back of the head. That works too. So don't think you're out of options. You'll figure it out. Be resourceful. So it's time. Motor mounts are in. It's time to set it in. So let's get to some live action. Well, problem number one. So, we thought that a suspension lift would help you because it gets the differential out of the way. But what it doesn't get out of the way is the stupid crossbar that, you know, comes with the suspension lift. Let me find a flashlight, I'll show you. We are in a pickle right now. I don't know what we're gonna do yet. So, you see, yes, the motor's tipped down, but we are like, you know, 2 inches off. Can we bring the tranny up? Sure. But our motor mounts are 9 feet in the air. And we are sitting on that cross member. Plus, right here. So what I don't know if I can get away with a regular Chinese swap pan or what we're gonna do yet. Like we said before, they do make a very specific and expensive S10 four-wheel drive LS pan. But guys, holy crap. That's like $500. I know. And man, the four-wheel drive when we did, we solid axle swapped it, so there was nothing in the way. We have hydraulic steering on it. It's our mud bogger out back, and we had no problems. But that makes sense now because there was not an idler arm and pitman arm and a steering shaft, you know, center link in the way. So really what the lift did actually was get the diff out of the way, and that's about it. This sucks. So let me assess this. I'm gonna see maybe, I mean, realistically we could run it taller because of the body lift. You know, we could just jack the tranny up as long as the bind isn't too crazy on that front CV pod, or worst case, I don't know, maybe worst case we shim the transmission up. And obviously the motor's shifted over a little bit. It's just kind of sitting idle there. We're gonna play around and we'll come back with a decision here in a hot second. All right, so she's in the air. I wanted to show you guys what we're running into. So like we talked about, we had oil pan clearance issues. So a Gen 3 truck pan is pretty high and tight, and I'm almost wondering if a Gen 4 might be a little better clearance, but we're running into the center link interfering with that. Now, we did the suspension lift with intentions of dropping the diff out of the way to basically give us more clearance for the oil pan, right? That was the whole idea with it. But let me show you now it's in the air. So what we're running into, now it's just sitting on the cross member, but you can see we're sitting there. We're sitting, oh, let me find a better angle. We're sitting right on the steering shaft. So that isn't the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that gap we have. We are tapped out for clearance. Now I know that Hooker, Blackheart, whatever, they sell a half of a heater box that's different. But I'm trying to come up with a quick solution so we can get this thing wrapped up. I know Derek's wanting his ride back and he's wanting to be able to pimp it around. Nah. So what do we do to take up this gap? So my consideration was, and I did loosen up the trans mount so you can see where they originally were, but if we can cheat this forward, you know, and get the washers up to the edge of this, maybe a ½ inch or so, that'll close the gap. If we can close that gap, guys, we are in. And look, I mean, look where we're at. We're right there, but we are smashed against the firewall. Did I clearance it like my S10? No, I did not. Can we still do that? Absolutely. Will that happen? At this point, possibly, because I am unsure what we're gonna do with that. So, I'm at a standstill for a moment. I'm trying to figure out the next step. So I think what we're gonna do is go ahead and just maybe remove the transmission mount altogether if we get it out of the way, or, you know, and then just put like a support stand under here. That way, you know, we can position it where we want. Because like I said, ideally, if we can close the gap up, we can start building from there. We know the engine's gotta go up. That's not a big deal. We could easily raise the engine up, make our own mounts, and then we're done. People do this all the time. This is just my first go at it with a four-wheel drive. So that's where the hiccup is for me personally. I've done probably 4 or 5 S10s throughout my career, but never with one of these things in the way. Unless it's, you know, lifted and, you know, has 40s on it. But the biggest thing is we go crazy with height. We don't want to run into issues because this pod here is obviously limited to articulation, right? You can see the damn thing, the drive shaft pod right there. And also, we don't want to interfere with drive shaft length. You can see that we're already pulled out. Now, granted, we are hanging from the hoist, so the suspension is extended. That's pulled out. At ride height, it is in quite a bit more, so I'm gonna go ahead and fuss with this a little bit more. I'm gonna see if I can get this thing to join together, and I'll chime back in when that happens. All right, so potential solution. I'm not saying this is right for your project, and this isn't permanent by all means. I'm gonna try to maybe come up with something a little more creative, but I just threw in some half-inch
These nuts. Got it.
as a spacer to kind of elevate this, because we were running into it being tipped back too far. Obviously, we're gonna end up doing that. I'll come up with a piece of half-inch steel and make it more permanent, but we're just trying to test a couple things, but it did work to close our gap, okay? So on top of that, I also elongated these a little bit, not very much, maybe 1/4 of an inch, which allowed the transmission to come forward a little bit. At a current setting, our front drive shaft with the lift is still spinning freely. Now, if you guys have any solutions or anything, or any ideas, drop them in the comments below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Now, this looks like it's out of ways, but remember that will go in about an inch or so while it's on the ground. Plus, we lifted it, so yeah. So we're down to the point of motor mounts, because obviously this is tightened up, and one of the bolts lined up in the oil pan. We are missing a couple, obviously, because, you know, LS to, you know, not LS tranny. But let's lower this thing down. I'll show you what's going on up top and see about these motor mounts. Let's get her on the ground. Well, friends, she is in. Well, kind of. So this ain't permanent yet. We're trying to figure out the permanent solution, but this is what we got so far, and it's kind of a hint of tacky right now. All right, it'll be corrected, more professional than this. Basically, I had spaced up the trans like we talked about, and I have now spaced up the motor mounts. And I used more half-inch nuts, right? But I'm still running into a damn problem with this rough country cross member. That's my issue. So the steering, now say we kept that like that, right? The motor mounts fit, everything's good, our firewall clearance is looking good. Now we're running into this. See, we're clearing our steering, but then if you see the back bar back there, now we're sitting on that. So I don't know what to do. We're gonna probably either have to see if we can lower that. I mean, it is only a couple holes, and it bolts through here. So if I could, you know, loosen one up, twist it, re-drill, maybe something of that nature. But on a positive note, right? I know it ain't running yet, I know, but on a positive note, she's in, right? So now we can start manipulating the rest of the engine bay around her. Or, trust me, if you guys got a hint of a better idea for this particular situation, I'm all game. Now, different oil pan, sure. This is what we got. We have a Gen 4 laying around, and we can get one of them Amazon swap pans. My problem is with those is the sump is very large in the back. That was one of the reasons why we stayed with what we had, because if you do any comparison, hell, they're, you know, 8 inches, you know, the sump is, where these are 6, right? So, yeah, I don't know. But on that note, guys, it's been a journey today, and we went from a V6 to a V8, right? We got 2 more cylinders, and it still don't run. So we're doing good though. But this does need to get to my buddy Eddie's to get the rear end finished up. He's got to do the rear gears, and we're going on vacation, right? So it's gonna be pleasant. So I gotta get this video off for you guys. Make sure, keep my schedule going, you know. And this How Tuesday has been an adventure. I showed you how to put a 5.3 where a 4.3 was. So we got something done, right? But on that note, guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up with that motor in this truck. So going from the junkyard to, well, still not running in the Jimmy, but you know, whatever the case is. But on that note, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.